WGAF Franklin, Massachusetts. Power 88. Southeastern New England's hottest rock. All day long.
Good morning. You are listening to the Alex Feuz Show, bringing you all of the news, sports debates, interviews with people you all care about, and so much more. Every single weekday on Dean College Power 88 Radio, broadcasting live from 7 to 8 a.m. And now, here's your host, Alex Feuz.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Alex Feuz, alongside in the news studio this morning, Chaz Stoba and Austin Dakuda and myself, Alex Feuz, bringing you up into the 8 o'clock hour. Thank you so much for tuning in this morning. We have another jam-packed show today. It's been a phenomenal week. Next week, I can't even wait for Ron Guidry is going to be on, former Yankee pitcher, as well as broadcasting legend Bob Costas. Next week, here on Power 88, broadcasting live from Dean College. You can't get this stuff anywhere else. There's no other radio show in the morning that in 1 week is going to have Ron Guidry and Bob Costas on. And we're doing it here, and it's a phenomenal time to be a Boston fan. The Patriots, yes, they suffered a difficult loss to one of the other best teams in the NFL this season, the Ravens, but also the Celtics. Austin and I will be breaking down the Celtics later on in the show. Also, top 5 news headlines of the day. There's an interesting one in there about almost a fish. So, again, we'll get into that later. But kicking things off the show, Austin Dakuda in the news studio, as well as Chaz Stoba. Austin, how's the train traffic and weather looking out there today?
Well, Alex, let's start with the weather for today. It is currently 39 degrees here in Franklin, Massachusetts. Today we'll reach a high of 57 degrees while remaining cloudy throughout the day. There's a chance of rain in the afternoon after 5 p.m., which will carry till almost midnight. So if you're leaving the house after dinner, make sure to grab a raincoat. Now let's take a look at today's traffic. There's not much traffic in the Franklin area. 495 is clear both ways. Expect heavy delays as you travel on the Mass Pike to Boston, however. Traffic is back up through Newton there. Route 24 north to Boston is heavily delayed this morning. Expect to be set back about 30 to 45 minutes on your commute there. 93 north to Boston is almost backed up through the tunnel, so expect more delays as you head to Boston this morning. And finally, a look at the train times for today. The train's through on time, with the next train arriving in Franklin at 7:12, followed by a 7:58 train. I'm Austin. That's a look at your weather, train, and traffic reports for today.
Thank you, Austin. Austin, it's been a busy week, and this is a busy time of year. Halloween is over with, and now it's on to Thanksgiving and now the holiday season. Do you like this time of year?
I think it's fine. I mean, I think it's a little bit early to start decorating for Christmas, which we've seen a little bit of, and you go into some of the stores and you see some Christmas stuff already out. I mean, it's a little bit early for me.
Well, I'll tell you the story. I went home last week, and Friday morning was the day after Halloween, and I went to a coffee place, and the coffee shop had already a decorated coffee cup. It already had snowflakes on and everything.
I mean, we got to get through Thanksgiving first, you'd think.
Well, you would think so, but the day after Halloween, they're like, okay, we can put out these holiday cups. It was crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd
November
rather
1st,
see.
they start putting the snowflakes on.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some places even before Halloween that had like Christmas stuff on sale already.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I went to Marshall's a couple weeks ago near here.
Oh, that's true.
They had a bunch of Christmas stuff out. It's a little bit early, I think. I mean, I'm sure it sells still because people like to decorate early, and I've seen some dorms around campus that are starting to already get ready on their doors for Christmas. But
yeah, and I think it's kind of different here because the college schedule is a little different because we have such a long winter break, 6 weeks. And, I mean, the semester is basically over with if you look at it because after this week we have a week and a half till Thanksgiving, right? Or 2 weeks and a half? 2.5 weeks?
2.5 weeks.
2.5 weeks?
2 weeks and then like 2
right.
days.
Yeah, so we have 2 weeks and 2 days, so that's 12 classes.
Yeah.
or 12 days of school.
After these two, yeah.
Right, after these two. Right, because in my head, because today, yesterday was my Friday.
Right.
So that's why I'm already counting this week over with for me. But and then after Thanksgiving break, you come back for a week of classes, and then it's finals, and then you're done.
Yeah, you're going home.
So I think that's the reason why people are already starting decorating, because it's such a short time period.
Right. You don't have much time to enjoy the Christmas season here because
No.
you're already going home around December 7th,
The first week of December.
12th, whatever it is, yeah.
You know, it's like the first week of December right in there. So you don't really have the time. But again, it's a fun time of year. This is your first semester as a student here. And and I'm sure Chaz can attest to this, but one of my favorite things here at specifically Dean College is the students, they have Thanksgiving and in the dining hall here, and it's a amazing event. You feel like you're home, and it's Austin's first year, but I'm sure Chaz, if Thanksgiving here in the dining hall, there's nothing like it.
I'd have to agree with that. Thanksgiving in the dining hall is really sort of something special.
Right. You feel like you're a part of that Dean community for especially the first time.
Definitely, and I think he's going to be excited to witness this for the first time. Last year, I had a good meal at the dining hall. It was we had turkey, we had stuffing, we had potatoes, we had, the whole 9 yards. And I think a lot of the first-year students, including myself, enjoyed that. It was sort of a good change of pace in the dining hall before going home for your family's Thanksgiving meal.
And then also when we come back, the late night breakfast.
Yeah, that too.
I guess they're changing things up this year as well.
Are they?
They're adding new things, I heard.
Do you know what kind of new things?
I don't want to put anything out there that would be wrong, but I feel like they want to improve it. And I think everyone's standards, it was pretty good to begin with.
I personally thought it was pretty good, but
yeah, so
if they're trying to improve it, I'm not going to complain about that.
No, I mean, if we could get it better, I mean, why not?
Why not?
I mean, it was great now. Is it going to be amazing? I mean, I like it. But late night breakfast, Austin, I know, again, you haven't done that as a student yet, but late night breakfast and Thanksgiving in the dining center are two events you're going to love.
I'll have to keep an eye out for those, yeah.
But again, big show today. Austin, Chaz, and I will be up, bringing you up until the 8 o'clock hour this morning. But Austin, we'll go into the Celtics talk now. This Celtics team feels like almost as if it could go all the way. Do you agree?
Well, it's a good start, Alex. We're only 6 games into the year, and 2 of them have been against the Knicks. So they are 5-1 to start the season. They have 3 guys averaging 20 points a game or more, and that's the only team in the league to have 3 players averaging 20 points per game or more. So they're not playing, selfish basketball. They're spreading the ball, and everyone's getting a chance to play, and everyone's getting a chance to score and have their night. They're going with the hot hand, which last year it seemed a lot like they were forcing things with Kyrie Irving every night, even if he wasn't the guy. Tonight they're finding the guy who's really getting in rhythm. Gordon Hayward had 39 points in the last game against the Cavaliers. And the Celtics team seems different than last year in so many ways. And the first one, like I said, is that they played together as one unit, and they actually seem like they like each other, which is so much different than last year's team. When you looked at last year's team, they looked miserable at times. They didn't seem to get along. And part of the reason was the divide between Kyrie Irving, Marcus Morris, and Smart, and some of the younger guys, because certain guys like Tatum and Jalen thought they could do things kind of their way because of the strong postseason they had without Kyrie the year before. Now you come into this season, completely changed locker room, completely changed kind of mood and attitude around the arena and in the locker room with Kemba coming in. And Kemba is a guy who just wants to win basketball games. Now, after the game winner against the Knicks last week, they asked Kemba Walker if he would prefer to take the shot, and he said that he didn't care who takes the game-winning shot as long as it goes in. And they're playing the Charlotte Hornets tonight, Kemba Walker's old team, and they asked him about that, and he says he just wants to win. So you have a team that just wants to win basketball games however they can, and it looks like Gordon Hayward's back to health, and he looked really good in the last game. So it's an exciting time to be a Celtics fan and an exciting start to the season.
You talk about the team chemistry on the Celtics team, and you can see it in the faces they're happy. They're also winning ball games. So if they go on a tough stretch, we'll see if those faces are the same or if they kind of get back in the groove that they were last season, just the bad funk that they were in. But again, we just saw it with the Washington Nationals without Bryce Harper and now the Celtics without Kyrie Irving. Is that a crucial piece to this puzzle that the Celtics just needed to get away from a guy like Kyrie Irving to win a championship?
I just think last year's team, there was so many different aspects that kind of cost them the season. And Kyrie was a part of that because he just didn't gel. And he kind of said that last season he was affected by the death of his grandfather, which makes a lot of sense because Kyrie just didn't seem like he was in the games mentally a lot of times. And for Kyrie, he's got a fresh start in Brooklyn, and it's kind of been the same thing a little bit. And we saw a report from Jackie McMullen about a week and a half ago that said Kyrie Irving has had a couple episodes, that's what she's called them, and it's concerned Brooklyn Nets officials already, where Kyrie is this guy who is unique in many ways. He does things a certain way and, can shut down at times, is what Jackie was talking about. And that's kind of what happened last year with the Celtics. Kyrie would get ready for games differently than other guys. Some weeks he'd be kind of shut down and closed off, but it's how you deal with it. And the Celtics team last year didn't really deal with that well, and that's partly because of the success they had the year before in the postseason without Kyrie. So the young guys like Terry Rozier, Jalen, Jason Tatum thought that they could, do it without Kyrie. He comes in, kind of closes himself off from those guys, and they just kind of get annoyed about it because they already were successful without him. So I think it's a big piece of the puzzle is they had to change the culture. And whether Kyrie re-signed here or not, there was still going to be some culture issues. That's why Marcus Morris is kind of, not on the team anymore. Terry Rozier was moved on from. Money has to do with it too, but a lot of it is culture. And they changed the culture in a positive way. This team is bonding a lot better than last year's team. They all went out to an escape room the other night. Saw that on Instagram. The entire team went out, looked happy, having some bonding moments. And we saw a report I was watching on the Celtics game against the Cavaliers, and the sideline reporter, Abby Chin, said this is the closest tight-knit group that we've seen in the last years that she can remember as the Celtics. And it's only 6 games in, but they're so tightly bonded. This looks like a team that can make a run just based off how well they play together.
They went to an escape room?
Yeah, they went to an escape room as a team bonding event.
I've been to escape rooms before. Mm-hmm. They're so hard. I'm not good in escape rooms.
I've been to escape rooms. No, that's a lie. I went to one called Bodeborg in Boston. It's a interesting one. There's one. It's a little bit tougher than some of the normal ones. They have different levels, but they are kind of difficult. Some of them require you to be like physically fit and like climb through spaces and.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's some like physically active ones, and there's some that are just like brain puzzles. So
yeah, when I went to San Antonio, we went into this one, and it was this. I'm laughing thinking about it because, I think we had 6 or 7 of the baseball guys from Trinity, and we went into the escape room, and it was a couple, and they joined us as well, and he was so funny, and he was shaking this box trying to get the keys out, but he just didn't want to basically find out how to get another key to open up this box to get the key out. So he started just shaking the box. And the key actually fell out. It took him 15 minutes to shake the key out. But anyways, I think escape rooms are interesting. And they're on the up and rise, I feel. They created a movie about it as well, the escape room movie. Mm-hmm. And escape rooms, we had some on campus this past weekend for an event that we did. But escape rooms are very popular now. Yeah,
and a lot of teams like the Celtics use them for team bonding. A lot of workplaces use them for corporate outings, and even just friends going out on a Friday night. It's very popular because it's something different that we haven't seen before this. So people like change and like different new ideas.
And it seems to be working with the Celtics. Maybe they can just continue going to an escape room, and maybe they'll keep winning.
Yeah, they get an interesting stretch of games coming up, too. So they'll be playing the Hornets tonight in Charlotte. Then they travel to San Antonio on Saturday. Toughest matchup they've had since the Milwaukee Bucks matchup a couple weeks ago, and they did beat the Bucks. And one of the things, too, Alex, is the Celtics team is resilient. They've only had, 2 really tough matchups so far, but they've played well in every other game, coming off a game winner in New York, going and beating Cleveland on a couple clutch plays. but they lost to the Sixers on opening night in a really tough loss. Come back and win 5 straight. They were down to the Milwaukee Bucks by about 15 points at the half. Come back and destroy the Bucks in the third quarter. So this is a team that last year would kind of shut down. Last year, a lot of times they'd go into the third quarter trailing. Last year, they were the worst third quarter team in the league. Every time you turn the third quarter on, it'd be the Celtics would blow a lead or just absolutely not be able to catch up and just kind of cough the game away. But this year, it seems like completely different. They're coming out. They're putting games away in the third quarter. They're catching up in the third quarter. And we've shown little bits of resiliency in the games against the Bucks and the games against the Sixers. So it's interesting to see how that carries over. And they play the Spurs this Saturday. Next week they have 3 games, one versus Dallas at home, Washington at home, and then they travel to Golden State to start their West Coast trip, which is going to be the toughest stretch for them this month.
If you had a crystal ball and you could see into the future, do you feel like this Celtics team has what it takes to win a championship?
Well, I think the unique thing about the NBA this season is that there are 10 teams that have what it takes to win a championship, the Celtics being one of them, I think. And there's just so many different factors that go into it. The Celtics are struggling with big men right now. Enes Kanter's out with a knee injury still. It's been 2 weeks. And it's going to depend on how the Celtics can play with their money and what they can do to get another big man in, because they can't roll with Daniel Tice the entire season at center with Robert Williams as the backup. It's just not really going to work because Tice is not a consistent starter. He's a good backup player. He's been defending the rim pretty well, but they're going to have to make some moves there. I think due to how open the NBA is this year, with the 10 different teams at least that can compete, I think they do have a chance to make a run at a championship. But if you're asking me, last season, we had the Warriors still dominating, and you had Kawhi on the Raptors. I would have said, if this team was the Celtics team last year, I would have said, not as likely. Mm-hmm. But this year, where it being more open, they look like a pretty close group. They look like a talented group with Gordon Hayward, depending on how well he plays the rest of the season. But I'll say, Alex, it depends on 2 things. If they can add another big man, and if Gordon Hayward is truly back to what we saw in Cleveland.
Once again, thank you for listening to the Alex Feuz Show. Austin Dakuda, Chaz Stoba, and Alex Feuz bringing you up until the 8 o'clock hour. Coming up next here on Power 88, top 5 news headlines of the day. There are some interesting ones in there. Coming up next here on Power 88. Got me. Welcome back to Power 88. Alex Feuz, Chaz Stoba, and Austin Dakuda bringing you up until the 8 o'clock hour this morning. It's a great Thursday, isn't it, Chaz?
Sure is. One day away from the weekend. I actually happen to be going home this weekend, so
oh, awesome.
Just need to get through today and tomorrow, and I get a nice weekend at home.
100%. I went home last weekend. It's amazing. It absolutely is amazing. A lot of stuff happening in the news. We're kicking things off with, there's always teacher stories in the news, and this one, a Florida teacher was fired for giving zeros to students that failed to hand in their work.
And I read about this, actually. It's pretty absurd, if you ask me, that she got fired, I believe, just 2 weeks into her tenure at the school for handing a 0 grade to students who failed to hand in their homework at all. Apparently, this school, the Westgate K-8 school in Port St. Lucie, South Florida, has a strict no-zero policy for students, and you're not allowed to give them a grade under 50, even if, like in this situation, they hand in absolutely no work.
So you can basically, you would still fail, but still, that's kind of feeding into the whole factor of everyone gets a trophy.
It definitely is, and the assignment in question I was reading was that she assigned a homework assignment that was called a Explorer's Notebook, which was for 2 weeks. She asked her students to keep a notebook, a journal of some sort, the same way like a 15th century explorer might have kept a journal in their time, which I assume would be about a page or so a night. And parents called in and complained that they overworked their students and that their kids were getting too much homework every night for them to handle at an 8th grade level. So she got called down to the principal's office and got talked to about the no-zero thing. A lot of students didn't hand it in. The rest of the story, gets fired.
Well, why would you do something if at the end of the day you're still going to get credit for it? And that's kind of how they're raising the kids, it seems like, or teaching the kids that you can basically get by not doing something. But, that's, I don't know. That's a tough one.
Yeah, and she was even quoted as saying it's absurd to give someone something for nothing, and to do that is creating a future that is pretty darn bleak.
100% agree. 100% agree. Headline number 4, a 150-million-year-old sea monster was unearthed in once tropical Poland.
And I read about this one, actually. The 150-million-year-old fossilized sea monster was called a plesiosaur, and it was unearthed in a cornfield near a village in southern Poland. And to my knowledge, this prehistoric monster was sort of the equivalent of the T-Rex of the sea. It had jaws of up to 8 feet long, and the jaws were even about 4.5 more times powerful than its predecessor, the T-Rex. So this could be... It would grow to about the size of 2 modern killer whales, and weigh about a dozen ton.
Wow. A dozen tons?
That's a big, big animal. And it was the apex predator back in its time.
Ooh.
It could eat any creature in the water. And the fossil that they dug up was about 33 feet long, surrounded by crocodile teeth, turtle shells, and other inhabitants of the water that may have been swimming around with it back in those times. And I'm looking at pictures of this thing, and this was absolutely massive, and I'm glad that it is extinct today.
Yes. Oh, my God. It's so scary. We don't really have anything scary in this world anymore.
The closest thing is probably mostly in the water. I mean, you have sharks, you have giant whales, although rather unharmless compared to back in the prehistoric ages.
Maybe a bear.
Bear, possibly. Some big cats, maybe a giant squid, but...
Yeah.
Looking back in time at these dinosaurs and prehistoric creatures, there's really nothing that can really compare to it in nowadays society.
Headline number 3. Game On, Kegel, Mike and Kay, Venus Williams, and Rob Gronkowski joined CBS Game Show.
Yeah, one half of comedy duo Key and Peele will be hosting the show. And the show is sort of a spin on James Corden's Sky Game show, A League of Their Own, in which it's a sports comedy entertainment series. There's going to be 2 teams of 3 that face off, one captained by tennis star Venus Williams, one by ex-football star Rob Gronkowski. Both teams will have actor and comedian Bobby Lee and writer Ian Carmel. They will serve as comedians for the show. And then the third spot on each team will be filled by a rotating panel of sports stars, comedians, celebrities, stuff of that nature. And they will compete in sports trivia, actual sports challenges, sort of stuff pertaining to stuff that they're more familiar with, or Venus Williams and Rob Gronkowski are. And Keegan-Michael Key will be hosting it. I'm pretty excited. I don't know about you.
Yeah. We talked about it on the show earlier this week about the question of where is Rob Gronkowski? He was supposed to be on Fox on the panel, and he hasn't been seen since week 1.
No, and I guess this is what he's been working on, and this is what he's going to be doing for a while. He's going to be joining a game show on CBS. I think that sort of fits his personality. Everyone knows Rob Gronkowski is a sort of wild, spontaneous...
He's a non-scripted guy.
He's definitely non-scripted, and I think this is going to be a show that can sort of bounce off of that.
I feel like he would be phenomenal in the WWE.
He will, and he has been, actually. He has made an appearance in WrestleMania back in 2013 or 14, I want to say.
Yeah.
Back down in Florida.
Right.
He's been a lifelong advocate and fan of the WWE, often spotted at matches and arenas that have WWE there.
And his best friend is Mojo Rawley, who's also a WWE superstar.
That is very true. He's good friends with him and has often stated his love for the WWE. So I think the WWE, like I said, has had him on the show from time to time, but I think he would definitely make a very good regular.
I especially with those whole uprising with SmackDown on Fox on Friday nights, Tyson Fury and Cain Velasquez, two of the most biggest stars in MMA history in the last 10 years. Now they're on the show as well, going up against Brock Lesnar. Ronda Rousey is also in there, so Rob Gronkowski would be a huge asset to the WWE if he chooses to do so. But headline number 2, an animal sanctuary hosts T-Rex Cup foot races and roller skate races. I don't know anything anymore. These stories they get crazier and crazier by the day.
Well, we got to give the people some fun stories early in the morning, kind of wake them up.
Yes.
But this whole story is an Australian animal sanctuary. Dress runners and roller skaters in the blow-up dinosaur costumes. I don't know if you've seen these around Halloween. They're around 7-8 feet tall. They just kind of run. They're funny to watch. They are. And they run in a sort of marathon. They go on roller skates. Some of them go by foot. But they run around in the city's central business district. And the T-Rex Cup races were part of the sanctuary's Compassionate Skates events, which aim to provide an animal rights-friendly alternative to the Melbourne Cup.
Well, again, if you haven't seen these costumes, again, they're the blow-up dinosaurs that people wear. I've seen videos this past week of people dressing up in one of these, blow-up costumes, and they play baseball games with them. Really? I don't know. They have costume baseball games.
I have seen that. Men's softball leagues often have those around Halloween. I saw one game, actually, where they all dressed up as WWE stars.
Oh, wow.
The second baseman was Stone Cold Steve Austin. The right fielder was Kane. Stuff like that. And it's a fun thing to see. I like seeing news headlines like that where they allow those players to have some fun and get creative with the costumes.
100%. Headline number 1, again, we always like to end the top 5 news headlines with what national day is it today? And today is National Cashback Day.
And that's a day I like to hear.
So National Cashback Day is on the first Thursday in November, and it speaks to the savvy shopper and all of us. And again, it focuses on the big exclusive offers that gives you the gift of cash back. And whether shopping for the perfect holiday gift or saving of the big ticket item for yourself, but finding great deals and saving makes a smart shopper a happy shopper. So again, Cashback Day today. There's many apps. Do you have any apps on your phone for a cash app?
I do not have cashback apps, but I do often look through sales or deals that any big websites or stores or outlets or whatnot is having that day. And if something catches my eye, I might check it out. And National Cashback Day, I might have to do some looking out today.
Again, there's so many apps out there that are pretty cool where you can actually log in and just sign in and it gives you some money back, which is pretty cool. So again, Cashback Day. So hopefully my dad is listening, and I can always use some cash back from Dad.
Yeah, I know my parents are listening too. So if you guys are listening, I'm coming home this weekend.
Oh boy. Well, again, coming up next here on Power 88, we're going to take a deep dive into Manager of the Year candidates, finalists, and also Rookie of the Year finalists in baseball. Coming up next here on Power 88. Welcome back to Power 88. Alex Feuz, Chaz Stoba, and Austin Dakota bringing you up into the 8 o'clock hour this morning. Chaz and I will be going to take a deep dive into looking at the Rookie of the Year candidates as well as Manager of the Year candidates. Chaz, again, we talked about most valuable players on the show on Tuesday. Now today, looking at the American League finalists for Rookie of the Year, Brandon Lowe, John Means, and Yordan Alvarez, all the finalists for Rookie of the Year. All three phenomenal rookies. And this game is going to be driven by these rookies, and currently are, in a way. But again, three great futures for these three rookies. Who sticks out to you most out of those three names?
I think it's pretty easy to say that Yordan Alvarez has been a standout candidate for Rookie of the Year since arriving on the scene. He had 27 homers in just 369 plate appearances. Obviously, he's part of that Astros team that made it to the World Series and was a huge part of that Astros offense towards the later half of the season that came alive. But I think regardless of who wins this, they're definitely going to have a bright future. So if you look back at last year's American League Rookie of the Year, Ronald Acuna Jr., who put up MVP numbers this year before, or rather that's for the National League. But even in both leagues, they've always been a future star in the game. There's never been a Rookie of the Year who's kind of fizzled out after his next year. Last year for the American League in the Rookie of the Year category was Ohtani, the two-way pitcher, who has definitely left an impression on the game. Year before that was Judge. Year before that was Fulmer, Correa, Abreu, Myers. Back in 2012 was Mike Trout. And all those guys, dating back to 2012, has been big stars in the game. So I think, like I said, regardless of who wins it for the American League or the National League for that matter, they're going to have a bright future ahead of them. But if I had to pick one out of these three, my pick would most likely go to Yordan Alvarez just simply because of the team that he's on. I understand that the Rays were a playoff team this year, and of course John Means, the pitcher from the Orioles, the lone bright spot in the Orioles, but it's hard to justify a pitcher that, although he only won 12 games in his 27 starts, that is almost a fourth of the Orioles' entire wins for the year. So for him to win that many games, he was standout for sure for the Orioles and is definitely a bright spot in their struggling team organization. But
that's one way to
Alvarez
put it.
really came alive, and I think that's my pick for the American League. What about you, Alex? What do you think?
Yeah, I have
this
to
race?
agree with you. Yordan Alvarez, and especially because he got called up halfway through the season, and before he got called up, he had over 30 home runs in AAA. So he almost had 60 home runs in this season if you combine the numbers. Yes, of course, it's going to be different because you can't combine them because they're two different leagues and two different pitchings that you're going to be facing. But still, almost 60 home runs and combined, that's just unheard of. And for 22 years old to be able to do that, he's a star.
He really is something incredible. And moving over to the National League finalists, that you have Polar Bear, Pete Alonso, first baseman for the Mets, Mike Soroka from the Braves, and Fernando Tatis Jr. of the Padres. Alex, what is your take on those three young stars?
Three phenomenal stars. And Alonso, Soroka, and Tatis. I mean, Tatis, I love. And just watching his season, where, again, he batted .317, 22 home runs. He's only 20 years old, and his base running again. But also Pete Alonso, another tremendous star, 53 home runs, the most home runs as a rookie, one more than Aaron Judge. All mixes in, and then also Soroka, 21 years old, 2.68 ERA, and 174 and 2/3 innings pitched over 29 starts. That's just three stars that all three could win.
I could definitely see this race going either way. Of course, like you said, Pete Alonso, first rookie to ever lead the majors outright in home runs with 53 home runs. He was electric for the Mets. He was part of the reason that they went on that huge game-winning streak. He ended up batting only around .275, but for a rookie in his first year to be putting up power numbers like that is definitely sort of incredible, and some sort of feat that I'm not sure if we'll ever see for quite a while. On top of that, you have Tatis Jr., who, of course, is the son of a former major leaguer. So he's a heritage, just like Acuna. And he put up a incredible season. Like you said, his slash line was far above average for rookies. And Soroka, who was a very, very consistent pitcher for the Braves and consistently put up good starts for them over his entire season. So I think any three of these put up a very strong case for Rookie of the Year, and I could see any three of them winning. But if I had to pick just one, I would probably have to give the edge to Pete Alonso, just because of the home run record that he had, because of leading the home runs for the league, and really being the key part of that Mets offense.
Look, Pete Alonso is also a big piece into why the Mets almost made the playoffs, and they got back into the race, into contention, but couldn't really stay consistent at the end. Had a couple huge wins, had a couple that long race kind of mid-August, early August, mid-August, and they couldn't get over that hump to just continue the consistency that they had in August into September. That's ultimately why the Mets didn't make the playoffs. But Pete Alonso is just one of those guys that just surprises the world, and he surprised everyone this season. He was talked about a lot coming up as well. So he was talked about rookie, and now he leads rookies in the majors in home runs, 53 homers, and especially short. You could make the argument, well, it's a juice ball era. Well, maybe, but again, you still have to hit the home runs. And Tatis, again, Jr., also played in the quote-unquote juice ball era and only hit 22. And in the game today, it seems like we always talk about homers. And if we're basing it off homers in this category, it's Alonso. But if you're a pitcher, you can't really do that. So all three of these guys are all phenomenal. I have to also give the edge to Alonso just because, he broke a record. It's simple. If you break records as rookies, that's something to talk about and something special. And that's what Alonso is. He's special.
He sure is.
So we'll switch now over to the Manager of the Year category. In the American League finalists, Rocky Baldelli of the Twins, Aaron Boone of the Yankees, and Kevin Cash of the Tampa Bay Rays.
And what I like about this award every year is that for the most part, the three finalists are from teams that aren't the number one seed in their division. You have the Twins and the Rays, who kind of snuck their way into the playoffs, and I like that they give Manager of the Year finalists to, although Aaron Boone of the Yankees was a top seed, over 100 wins and whatnot, the Twins and the Rays snuck their way into the playoffs, and I think that's why they're up for Manager of the Year, because they took teams that looked decent on paper and they managed them very well. They knew what to do when, and they got this team into the playoffs when no one really expected them to. I think making them and giving them recognition for what they did in the season is what I like about this. But as far as my pick, it's definitely a close race where Baldelli would be the runaway winner if there was a sort of Rookie of the Year, because he's the first-year manager for the Twins. So for him to be in his first year like that and coach a Twins team that missed playoffs last year, has talent, but didn't quite execute it perfectly over the past few years, for him to come in his first year and bring them in, he definitely presents a very strong case. However, you have Boone, who had a bunch of stars on his team, a lot of power on his team. Although he didn't have the pitching depth that some other teams had, the Yankees came into the season as a front runner for the AL East pennant. But regardless of what kind of talent that he had, Boone definitely managed the team very well, allowed them to use their full potential and kind of exercise all of the advantages that they had. So, Cash, of course, for the Rays, Kevin Cash had an impressive season, managerially speaking. He took a Rays team that has never really been that bad, but has always been in the same division as the Red Sox and the Yankees, which makes it tough to make it out of their own division when they have two of the better teams in baseball every year. So for him to pass the Red Sox just below the Yankees, sneak in a wild card spot, is a feat in its own, and I think it's going to be a close race for AL. Alex, what is your take on these three managers for these three incredible teams?
It's so tough. People are going to say I'm biased. Chaz, I think you know where I'm going with this. I have to go with Aaron Boone. And the reason why I say this is simple. It's the injuries. The next man up mentality. He's only in his second year as a coach. He's never coached at any level before prior to joining the Yankees last season. And what the Yankees saw as a whole is something that no one's ever seen in the MLB before. Look at how many injuries they had to face. Giancarlo Stanton played less than 20 games. Aaron Judge missed 2 to 3 months of the season. Gary Sanchez, same thing. Didi Gregorius didn't come back until almost July. Luis Severino didn't throw a single pitch until September. Dylan Betances made one appearance and then tore his Achilles after making a return, and then he's out for again the rest of the season. There's so many guys that we could go on and on and on about. Gleyber Torres is really the only Yankee that stayed healthy all season long, as well as Brett Gardner. Aaron Hicks also went down for a while. Every single pillar piece that the Yankees had. CC Sabathia, again, another one. Chapman, another one. He went down for a while too. Every single piece that the Yankees had going into this ultimate season, we're going to do this. They were able to do it with guys like Gio Urshela, Austin Romine, Luke Voigt. Clint Frazier was also a big piece of this. So again, the Yankees had to really face some diversity and had to be versatile, and they were able to do that in an unbelievable way to win over 100 games. Aaron Boone, only in his second season, has improved so much that he deserves Manager of the Year.
Well, the case you presented is definitely hard to argue, and much like the Rookie of the Year races, I can see this award going to any of these managers. They've
all three incredible managers.
They have all posted incredible seasons for their teams. Sort of switching gears a little bit to the National League finalists, you have Craig Counsell of the Brewers, Mike Schlitt of the Cardinals, and Brian Snitker, who won the award last year, of the Braves. What is your take on these three fantastic managers for these teams? Like I said earlier, that all three of them weren't really powerhouses coming into the season, and all three of these managers kind of took these teams and shaped them in a way that allowed them to all make the playoffs.
Yeah, it's so tough. And managers in this game of baseball, I said it on the show yesterday. The National League is like chess, and the American League is like checkers. And the National League managers are truly hard to outmanage because, I would love to go back and see the percentage rate of National League teams winning the World Series versus American League teams in the DH world. And you have to be a different breed to manage a National League team. Joe Girardi, who is now going to the Phillies, American League manager, but also prior he was in the National Leagues for a little bit. So again, Joe Girardi has that experience where he can really manage a ball game. One of the most underrated managers in the game. But getting back to the point that I had, to be a manager in the National League, you have to truly understand the strategy of the game. You can't really get by just subbing guys in. You have to know, do I want to take my pitcher out here? It's the fifth inning. We're trailing by 1 run. The bases are loaded, 2 outs. Do I want my pitcher to hit here when he's only at 80 pitches? It's a 1-run game. What do I do here? Those are the type of situations that if you're an American League manager, you don't have to worry about. So if you're a National League manager, you have to face different situations and overcome them that the American League managers don't have to do. And I feel like Craig Counsell did that phenomenally because the Brewers have one of the best National League bullpens. And he was able to really manage a tough season after Christian Yelich went down with an injury about how can we catapult this into another playoff run. Unable to do so truly, but still a phenomenal season for Craig Counsell. And I had to go with him.
it's hard to see a manager like Craig Counsell losing his star piece in Christian Yelich so late in the season while they're still making that playoff run. It's sort of hard to justify a manager of the year that didn't make the playoffs, but you don't know what he could have done without Christian Yelich, and I think we're going to see that next season to see what he can do if Christian Yelich, of course, stays healthy for the whole season. I was definitely interested to see the Brewers play in the playoffs if Christian Yelich never got injured, rather. So for Craig Counsell to take this team before the injury and have them post a very strong playoff run, he's definitely a very strong candidate. However, I'm going to have to go with Snitker from the Braves. Had a lot of young talent on his team. Like I said, won it last year. If he wins it again, he'll be the second manager to do this since the 2004-2005 season of his own mentor, Bobby Cox. The Braves actually made the playoffs and didn't do too great in the playoffs, but have a very promising young core in Acuna and had a lot of players that had some breakout seasons. And I think he managed the team very well. I think he took some players that needed some guidance, needed some molding, and sort of gave them direction. And like you said, on the surface, it would appear that an AL manager and an NL manager have the same job. But like you said, there's a lot more dimensions to it in the sense that AL managers don't have to worry about pitchers hitting. They can put in their DH. They don't have to worry about that. And really, any NL manager, I mean, I keep saying this, I feel like a broken clock, but every single one of these managers equally deserves this spot. All four of these races, the Rookie of the Year, Manager of the Year for the AL, NL, all of them deserve this spot just as much as the other one. So it really comes down to brass tacks in a way, in that each one of these has put up a unique case for Manager of the Year, and I could see any one of them winning it.
And that's what's so special about this game. But again, a phenomenal show today. Chaz and Austin joining the studio, as long as Alex Feuz, myself. I'm actually off tomorrow. I'll be in Hartford, Connecticut for the next 4 days on a student activities conference. So what's really special about this, I know we're running out of time quickly, but just to quickly talk about, as I am the vice president of the Student Activities Committee here at Dean College, and it's the largest student-run club on campus. Little plug for them. And we are, the club that I'm a part of, is we plan all the large-scale events on campus for the students here at Dean. And this convention is called NACA, and it's in Hartford, Connecticut. And this is where all the performers that we bring to campus are, as well as all the activities and different giveaways and takeaways that are there. So that's where I am going. The van leaves in about 10 minutes. So right after this, I got my suitcase here in the studio. I'm ready to go to Hartford, Connecticut, about a 2.5 car ride. And then we'll get there today, and then we'll be there through Sunday. I'm looking forward to it. And then it's going to be exciting to see who we can bring back to the campus for the students here at Dean, especially, and also prospective students for years to come. But signing off, there will definitely be a show tomorrow, of course. The show goes on. As always, I know Austin Dakuda and George Hathaway will be leading the show tomorrow, as well as maybe some special guests. But next week's a huge week, right, Chaz? Ron Guidry and Bob Costas on the show next week.
Looking forward to it.
Big show, but signing off for Austin Dakuda, Chaz Stoba, I'm Alex Feuz. Have a great day, everyone, and be kind to one another. Have a fantastic day.